Hello.
Banger.
Welcome back. Banger.
Banger.
Get us some banger emotes there in the chat. We got some in there already. From Cooper and I. Yeehaw Jimmy says he feels like the one guy who shows up at the movie theater is the only one in the seats. I love
Are you
that.
new around these parts, Gihad? Welcome.
Yeah, you a long-time lurker, first-time commenter? Or are you new here? If you're
Your
new
body
here,
is
then
ready.
we have to make sure we give you the acceptable hazing.
That's right.
Every new person gets hazed.
Cheese slices.
Oh, well.
Why do you do that?
What?
You do that kind of laugh when I tell a joke that doesn't land, but then you do that kind of awkward laugh, and you make me feel even more awkward.
Maybe that's why I do it.
I was
He says he
calling back
lurks.
to a previous episode, and I think it went over your head.
No, I was laughing about it, like the cheese slices on the nipples or something like that.
Okay, yeah, you remembered.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Cable in the chat. Yeah, so like
Hey.
going to a movie theater and being the only one in the seats. I used to do this when I was single and didn't have anything else to do. I just go to a movie theater and just sit there by myself and watch the movie alone. I preferred that. I go to the movies at 10 in the morning, empty movie theater, have it all to yourself. Just sit there and watch a banger, put your feet up on the seat in front of you. That was the way to do it. So today, in this here show, we're going to start off talking about this movie trailer that was just released for a movie called Civil War. So you can probably, if you haven't seen the movie or the trailer, if you haven't seen the trailer or heard about the movie yet, then you're going to. This movie is going to make a mark. It's already has. As soon as it came out, within a couple hours, everybody was talking about it. It's a very big conversation starter. I mean, it's called Civil War, so there's probably a pretty good bet that would land. And we're going to use the movie as kind of a jumping off point to discuss, I guess, the current state of things as we wrap up 2023 and head into 2024, and what 2024 is going to look like. What sort of different machinations are there going on behind the scenes, and how are the power structures shifting and adapting, and then what does that, like, I guess, what does it mean for us? Like, what are we supposed to do with all this information? So what's up, Narrow Path Enjoyer? Narrow Path Enjoyer is here. We love to walk the narrow path with Narrow Path Enjoyer. The Cable says they're reinforcing the narrative that this is the inevitable result of secession. Yeah, I do believe that is. I think that's part of what's going on here. But let's. Okay, I like Gihad Jimmy. Maybe we don't need to haze him quite as much.
Okay, Gihad. The theater is filling up. You may still be retarded. These things are not like mutually exclusive.
Right.
So let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I wouldn't say that you necessarily need to find a reason to determine yourself to be not retarded. I don't think there's necessarily any shame in being retarded. I'm a proud retard myself. I definitely know Cooper is retarded, and he's proud of it. I've heard about it plenty from him. So team retard over here. We
I don't know if I'm proud of it so much as like I just don't. I'm unaware.
You've accepted it.
Yeah, no, it's not even that. I'm just bliss.
Oh, Cable is raising the stakes here. He says you're not allowed to listen if you're not retarded. So maybe that's what we call the supporting listeners group whenever we relaunch it here. Maybe it's like the group of retards.
Yeah, it's like community mental health.
What are you doing, honey? Oh, I'm hanging out with the group of retards. Narrow Path Enjoyer is retarded and proud. That's right. These are my people. Okay, so do us a favor, do the like, subscribe, share, do all that sort of stuff. Get other people in here to listen to this one, because I think this is going to be, as all our episodes are, I think this one's going to be a banger. We titled it, "What Kind of American Are You?" And this is actually a line from the movie. I think this is maybe going to become, I think this is probably going to be a very popular meme from the movie. So Let's share the screen here and see if we can play the trailer, and we'll kind of pause. We'll have to pause it periodically and kind of comment on it just to try to avoid getting flagged for demonetization or whatever. So if it's kind of annoying that we have to keep stopping it, well, yeah, we're just part of the platform here. So share tab audio.
Hey,
What?
Column Rack says he's been binging your content.
Oh, nice. How's that been? I wonder. I wonder how far back you went. Hopefully, you didn't go back too far, because, I mean, it hasn't been that long. I mean, what, like 2 years? I guess maybe 3 years now. But I'm already embarrassed about stuff that I used to say back then. So hopefully, you can listen with some grace. Oh, he says it's excellent. Good. Cable said this movie looks fucking awesome. I'll chew on this agitprop with no shame. Yeah, I think just strictly from a like, hey, I want to go watch a movie where lots of shooting and awesome shit happens. I think this movie looks like it's going to be really entertaining. The guy who directed it apparently was the director of the movie Dredd, or Judge Dredd. I can't remember what it was called. The one with Carl Urban as Dredd. And he's had a couple of movies that are kind of along these lines in the past, sort of apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic, and that I remember watching that movie. I mean, it was 10 years ago. I don't know that it came out, and I remember watching it at the time and feeling like, I don't know, getting that like fuck yeah, I'm a man kind of like. Ugh. I left the theater like walking a little taller and like, yeah, I want to go crack some skulls kind of. I remember getting that impression from that movie. So it's kind of interesting then that well, let's play the trailer for the movie here, and then we can kind of talk about it as we go along. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to play it and with the audio, and then make sure that it's working, and then we'll continue as long as it is. So let me know, Cooper, if it is working.
The United States Army.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, well then hopefully everyone else can as well.
Can everybody else hear
The
it?
White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Notice he
This is
says
my-
the three-term president.
The three-term president. This is my first time watching this, by the way, so you're getting a fresh reacts video.
Ooh. Yeah, now we're going to test the quickness of the agility of Cooper's mind.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
I guess aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America.
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Kind of an interesting thought there so apparently there's this really big civil war going on, but there's these people who are just kind of trying to keep their head in the sand and avoid like not knowing about it. They're just trying to maintain life as it goes. But apparently there's a lot of chaos and fighting already happening. So that kind of, they're painting a picture about what the structure of the society, the societal dynamics at that point. I don't have a conclusion for that necessarily. Just something I'm observing.
It reminds me of I was watching a video by J-Reg earlier, and he did he went to some college campus and did like a change my mind segment, but he just wrote on the sign, "Everything is fine, change my mind." And it was kind of funny because you get all of these, super lib, like poli-sci, whatever people, students and stuff coming up and confronting him. Like, what do you mean everything's fine? Nothing's fine. And he's like, I don't know. Everything's fine. And they're like, what about Ukraine? And he's like, yeah, you see, when I think about that, I get stressed out. So I just don't think about that. I just don't worry about it. I just stopped thinking about it. They didn't quite understand. I don't think they got the joke. But I think that's actually a pretty valid strategy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's just unplug. Like, he was doing a bit. He was doing a joke. But yeah, kind of clear pilled. Yes, clear pilled. Right. I think that's a valid strategy. Just, why are you worried about that thing thousands of miles over there? when you think about it, it upsets you. So don't think about it. Stop.
Right. If you can't
You
do
know, just
anything
like
about it, then there's no reason to think about it.
I think for most people, unless you live in like some big city or something like that, for most people, if you just like go outside and look down the street, uh, you know, see the trees and the birds and the grass and stuff and kids playing and it's fine. Your life is probably fine mostly.
Yeah.
And if you weren't plugged into the Borg all the time, you'd probably be fine.
Mm-hmm. This is actually very much related. I knew at some point today this is going to come up, but this is very much related to a conversation we were having last night in the voice chat on the King Pill Discord. We talked about this sort of thing quite a bit. It was a little eerie after the conversation we had last night. Waking up this morning, and one of the first things I saw was this movie trailer, which directly referenced everything we were talking about last night. And that conversation, it was kind of fun. It got a little heated at some points. We were getting a little worked up, kind of not yelling, but kind of raising our voices with each other and getting a little adrenaline rush. So we were discussing this, and there was kind of two different factions in the way we were perceiving how both the next year and then like the next year is going to be kind of a signal for what the 5 to 10 years after that is going to be like. So we were disagreeing about how we thought the next year was going to play out. And one contingent basically is envisioning this sort of a scenario, having basically the sort of scenario that's presented in this movie. And the other contingent very much disagreed. And I'll leave it for you guys might be able to guess which side I fall on, but I'll leave it for a bit here before we get into it more. We'll watch some more of the trailer.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California.
Okay, Western forces of Texas and California.
That'll happen.
Right. So this is interesting then. So there's one theory I heard for why this was the artistic choice that was made here, that it's Texas and California. Just kind of the surface level theory was that, well, basically it's a way of trying to de-ideologize the movie to make it not seem like the movie is really blatantly pushing a particular agenda. So they're not having to make Texas the good guys or make California the good guys, or both of them be the bad guys. It's just this kind of divides it. So it sort of detaches it from reality enough that it can function as good art. Another theory that I saw for this is that this is projecting, say, 5 or so years in the future after a Trump presidency, where all the blue staters have moved into Texas and turned Texas blue. And now Texas and California are forming a coalition against others. We get into it a little bit more throughout the trailer here. So I thought that was interesting. That's kind of an interesting. It goes with the 3-term president. So by 2029, 2030, you would have Trump, presumably, if he's reelected and then reelected again, he becomes a 3-term president. Yeah, so that's the other thing that's interesting is the two the flag with the 2 stars. It's like an American flag, and it's just got 2 large white stars on it. And I wonder if is that supposed to indicate the Texas and California alliance, that they've formalized this alliance and they have their own flag that's kind of a bastardization of the American flag. It'd be interesting. I don't know how much the trailer kind of gets into all of this fully, but it'd be interesting to see how this kind of plays out. There was 2 different pieces of art that this reminded me of just in watching it, just the one time I've watched through. So the first one is Jericho, the TV show Jericho. One of my favorite shows of all time, absolutely fantastic. It's kind of this post-apocalyptic. There was a massive terrorist attack, and everyone's kind of cast back into Wild West days, except with trucks and guns and everything. The second one that it reminded me of is Man in the High Castle. It just kind of gives me some of those vibes of like an alternate history being presented, although this one's supposedly in the future. But imagining America in a different way than it is today. And then what was the other one? Is it Red Dawn? Is that what it's called? The one where it was made in like the 80s or 90s, and then there was a remake done of it. And it's like the Soviets are invading America, and you have the kids who go out into the woods, and then they have to kind of mount the resistance and stuff. Those are the movies that this kind of remind
The
me.
remake was actually filmed in the small town I grew up in.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Was that the name of
yeah.
it? Red Dawn?
Yeah, Red Dawn. The remake was like there's the scenes when they're out in the woods were filmed out in Fitzgerald Park on the ledges in Grand Ledge, Michigan, which is where I grew up.
Interesting.
I remember when they were filming it.
So when did the movie come out?
Oh, I don't remember. I was in middle school or high school. So
Okay. This was like 10 or 15 years ago. 10 years ago.
10 years ago or something like that. In any case, like, yeah, there was like, you could see, if you stood on the train trestle, you could see like all the special effects explosions and stuff over in Fitzgerald Park. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue with this here.
Have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Let me go back to that and see that map. All right, so it looks like on the map here we've got there's like 3 broad there's more like 4 or 5 different coalitions. It's kind of tough to tell with these different grays here, but you've got like the Western, Washington, Oregon, Montana, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Nevada, Utah, and Wyoming seem to form one little block here. Then you've got Texas and California together. And then you've got like the Southeast seems to be its own little block. And I can't tell if it's the same gray, if it's supposed to be the same as the group in the Northwest. And then you've got everyone else. So you've got the East, the Northeast, and the East coming all the way through the Midwest and all the way out into Nevada and Alaska. So that must be like the remainder of the United States. So it seems like we've got like 3 primary players here in this story. Someone said it was loud. I'll pull the volume down just a little bit.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens?
They're moving to D.C. today.
You need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol every.
That's one of the lines from the movie that I think is going to turn into a meme. They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol.
Based.
Yeah. So it seems very clear here. The conclusion I'm drawing is you've got the United States is controlled by what would be essentially the proxy for right wingers. Essentially, the United States is MAGA, and Texas and California are forming this resistance against them. So it's interesting. The libs somehow managed to identify themselves as the victims fighting against the huge oppressive power.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into this more in a bit. Let's keep going.
Every instinct in me says this is death.
Flooded.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this.
Liberty.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this.
Notice the fingernails on the sniper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Weird kind of greenish yellow hair and like neon metallic painted fingernails.
Is it a Troonie?
Sure looks like it. Particularly on a sniper. Which just I don't know if this is just kind of a meaningless detail or if there's some deeper thing here, but it's like the sniper who's trying to hide is going to have brightly colored fingernails.
But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
There you go. That's the meme. I've already seen it going around, and I think this concept right here is going to become like a really defining conversational moment over the next year. What kind of American are you? I think you might even say like this is the 2024 election is fundamentally going to be about what kind of American are you? Casting two very distinct visions of America, like self-consciously.
He's got red glasses.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so is that... You could take this a few different ways. You could take the rose-colored glasses. You could take it as red, like red pill, red Republican. It also is kind of reminiscent of the...
like Elton John.
Oh, yeah.
So he could be a homosexual.
Yeah, that's true. He could be. It also made me think of the what are the glasses on the King Pilled logo? The Pit Vipers.
Pit Vipers.
It sort of reminded me of Pit Vipers a little bit. Like maybe they don't want to be too on the nose, but hunting lenses. I think something about this character is just super super compelling. Just from the trailer and people reacting to it.
Notice his finger is just resting there on the trigger.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car!
You're gonna have.
Now, if you're listening to this on the audio, the podcast only, the words that were just put up on the screen were was it All Empires Fall. That I think is very interesting. That we've got art coming out now that's explicitly saying all empires fall. That's an idea that is very, very foreign to the American psyche. America 5 or 10 years ago wouldn't sanction that sort of an idea.
Smells like a psyop.
Mm-hmm. Let's continue.
Hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, dude.
God bless America.
What?
It was really satisfying to see that pagan temple get blown up.
Yeah. Let's go back and see it again.
Yeah, let's do that. This is like porn for me. Yeah. Bitch.
God bless America.
Bitch.
All right, so okay, general thoughts. Do you have any what are your this is the first time you've seen it now, so what are your initial impressions?
I don't know. I'd probably have to watch it again, and really,
It kind of kills it to have to break it up and pause.
Yeah,
it
does, but So if I follow it, like, okay, I'm guessing the main characters are some journalists.
Yep.
So if in the Capitol, which is run by successor to Orange Man or whatever,
Right.
where they killed the journalist, so then the journalists are probably from California / Texas, that coalition.
Yep.
Let's see, and they're trying to not get killed by the Red Army. So the libs are making an agitprop film depicting them as the hero and the victim. I don't know. It feels kind of gay to me. Maybe it'll be fun to watch. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it definitely looks like it'll be fun to watch. I think Buck Johnson says the one nation under God, indivisible, is a direct shot at secession, and they obviously mean Texas. They obviously mentioned Texas, referring to Texas.
I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on the old Pledge of Allegiance?
I haven't said it in I don't know how long. Probably 15 years at least.
Yeah, me too.
It's, to me, it feels very much like paganism.
yeah.
With this particular film here, though, I think the jury's out for me right now as to whether this is a lib masturbation exercise.
That's what it's looking like to me.
Or if it's a kind of more subversive sort of thing that's kind of like the way that Barbie came out. Like, Barbie was very clearly anticipated, and like everybody wanted it to be a girl boss film. And in a way, it was a girl boss film. But it was so much of a girl boss film that it actually turned out to be kind of based. It was something that when it came out and people went and watched it, our guys were like hell yeah, Ken is our guy. And the libs were like, no, you can't like our movie. No, it's not based. No, our movie is cringe. And I could see that being kind of something similar here. I don't necessarily I don't know. I guess I'll have to see it ultimately. But the thing that's more the thing that I guess really stands out to me with this is the way people are talking about it is like it's going to be, this is predictive programming. Like this is preparing people for what it's going to look like. And I think it's the opposite. I think that the way that it functions on that plane, and I'm not saying to disambiguate this, like I'm not saying that the director is like intentionally master planning all of this. I'm saying the way that this is going to play out. So I think the way that this is going to be capitalized on, the narratives that are going to be drawn from it, are going to be essentially using this as the scare tactic to herd people in a particular direction. Like presenting this as like the alternative. Now that you kind of have the mouth sound mind picture thing, where if you want to really be able to connect with someone, you want to make sure you're really speaking to the picture in their mind. Being able to reify that thing with a word, and you could say that word, and it brings up all of these images. Doing that with a movie is even more powerful. So this movie, I think, is going to recontextualize the term Civil War for people. And when people start referring to Civil War, I think it's going to more and more relate to this movie and the images in this movie and the emotions that it will evoke in people. I guess that's my first thought on it.
So do you think that, like the Red Army, we'll say, is going to be portrayed as the bad guys, and then all of our guys on Twitter are going to be like, yeah, that's us, cool, and they're going to identify with it, like Barbie?
Maybe it might be that
it feels like bait.
Yeah, it probably is bait. I also think I think there's a level upon which this is just a movie that's topical for the times. And so there's people who want to make and produce a movie that's topical for the times, and they want that movie to be really successful and be a profound art piece and redefine a conversation and all these sorts of things. So they're drawing on existing threads that are in the society, which is an interesting thing about art. Then, especially art that's properly done, it's almost like a mirror that's reflecting the human spirit back to itself.
Hey, there's 21 of you watching right now. Like the show.
That's right. The fact that it says we've got 22 concurrent viewers and 10 likes. So at least 12 of you guys need to get your act together. What was I saying? So I think that the fact that the movie is being made is itself significant, because it's not a leading indicator. It's a backwards indicator. The movie being made indicates that there's a market for a movie like this, which means that there's sentiment around a movie like this. So I think trying to take it and make the movie itself be a forward indicator too much is risky. I think it's very clearly a backward indicator, and the question is, how are things actually going to play out, and are they going to play out according to this movie? And so they're making the movie now so that people see the movie and then they begin embodying their roles within the movie. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. This gets back to this revealing my position on the conversation last night. I don't buy the notion that we're going to get some sort of like continent level open hot warfare in this sort of way. Yeah. Because I think that'd be like the worst case scenario situation for the existing regime. I don't think the existing regime has the capacity to project power sufficient to actually control the outcome of a situation like that. The last thing they want is to actually start uncontrolled hot warfare. Because it's a regime of foxes. It's not a regime of lions, using Pareto's fox and lion dichotomy. I guess I should explain that to a degree. It's the foxes are the elite. So you have the circulation of elites. You have existing elites, and then eventually, as time goes on, those elites their power begins to decay and ossify, and eventually they get overthrown by a new set of elites. And history is the story of essentially going back and forth between fox-style regimes and lion-style regimes. The lion-style regimes are more conservative. They deal with they're much more comfortable with tradition, religion, dealing with more smaller, isolated, strictly hierarchical bureaucracies, and they're also much more comfortable with the overt use of force. So they're the stereotypical monarch or whatever that has some sort of uprising and goes down and just ruthlessly just puts it out. Uses exactly the right amount of force necessary to squash it and end it. On the flip side, you have the foxes, who are very uncomfortable with the use of force. The way that they accumulate and use power is through cunning and manipulation and scheming, and they kind of fit a particular archetype, if you know what I mean. We have a regime right now of foxes. It's a regime of lawyers. The thing that we're missing is the lion spirit. There is no lion spirit present on the global stage right now, because essentially the role of a liberal government is definitionally to ensure that no government arises. It's a government dedicated to the proposition of ensuring that there cannot be a government. So liberalism is like a fox plot to try to give themselves perpetual reign. And the problem with that is that this system is beginning to spiral even out of their control, which is opening the door for a lion-style government to step in, which is just the cycle of the circulation of the elites. So now, go ahead.
I don't think the masses are going to fight a war.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to happen.
There's no political will for it.
No.
Yeah, it's a like Cable here says, knowing a bunch of dudes in the military, I can tell you the vast majority will tell the feds to pound salt if shit hits the fan like this.
Maybe.
And even not just, I mean, because I'm part of the reality of warfare now is that you don't need nearly as many people, and you can do stuff, remotely. You can manage things remotely. So, like, some of the hullabaloo about them, queering the military and all this sort of thing, and they're like, oh, it's gonna drastically reduce the capacity of the fighting force. Well, I mean, when your military action is increasingly becoming dependent upon remote operated drones and that sort of thing, that kind of mitigates a lot of that concern. But so here's the thing. The nature of the existing regime is not that it wants to crush everything in its path. It wants to absorb everything in its path. It sees people as a resource to be harvested. So just plug everybody into the coom pod and then use their life force to power all your institutions. So to use this sort of abrasive, of over-the-top hard power is, number one, just completely not in the nature of the actual people governing the institutions. The academics and the bureaucrats and all this sort of thing, they're squeamish with the use of hard power. Their entire ethos is soft power. So if there's going to be actual hard power used, it's not going to come from them. It's going to come from whatever the new regime is. By definition, the new regime is going to overthrow them. Cooper's making shadow puppets on his wall. What is that?
It's like a fetus.
Oh, it kind of looked like the oh shit, what up?
Oh shit, what up? Here come that boy.
Here come that boy.
It's like E.T. or something.
Yeah.
Phone home.
So number one, it's a regime that's full of foxes. Number two, the entire scope of technological development, the whole World Economic Forum, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. You're gonna live in the coom pod. You're gonna eat the bugs. You're gonna live in the 15-minute city. This entire thing is premised on taking existing people and turning them into a resource to be harvested. This is the entire American corporate project. You get a social security number because you're a corporate property. You're the property of the American corporation. And the American corporation has a stake in your own productivity. So if you want to think of the regime as being something kind of equivalent to like the American government, there is an entity that is steering and manipulating and using the American government. So there's kind of like a force behind the regime, if you want to think of it that way. I think there's a reason why a lot of people that start thinking about stuff in this sense become they start speaking in really Lovecraftian terms, because it's kind of hard to think of these sort of like abstract intersections of incentives. But that's what, like, the sort of spirit that animates the regime is a network of human incentive structures. And what that human incentive structure is trying to do is monetize the human population. turn the human population into digital serfs. So having a massive, full-scale armed war where people are like shooting rockets into the White House, this is like the worst thing possible for them. The infrastructure is bad enough as it is. Just like nuking all the infrastructure. The economic cost of something like that would be massive. It would be immense. And I can hear people who are saying, well, this is, it's like World War II. They go in and they destroy they wipe out the country and then use that as an excuse to come in with their loans and rebuild it and everything. But that was a population that was removed. There was a sovereign nation here, removed from a sovereign nation here. The entity, the regime that governs this slice of Earth depends upon, we saw this with COVID. It operates on the thinnest of margins. Absolute razor-thin margins in supply chains. The economic cost of a war like that would be orders of magnitude greater than the economic cost of World War II. And it's not like, well, okay, World War II is happening over in Europe, but here we've got this great new world that we have all these resources and everything is just opportunity to the moon. They would be doing that on their own home soil. It would be just complete and total economic devastation, which doesn't lend itself well to building out a massive digital empire. Like, they don't want to have all of the networks go down. How are they going to keep you addicted to your phone if all of the networks are down? How are they going to keep you subscribing and paying and buying and consuming? How are you going to consume in the middle of a war that's knocked out all of the infrastructure? It just does not compute at all. It doesn't work.
Luckily, nukes aren't real, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I hope we get someone's eyelid twitching. They're real. How will one
They're not,
coom
dude.
with no
Come
internet?
on. Yeah, with no internet, maybe then you would have a bigger problem because now you have a bunch of angry young men who want to fight.
You're right.
They're not being placated.
Right. So, what this sort of a scenario would do, having a open global conflict like this, what it would do would be, it would actually create the will and energy on the right wing that the right wing is desperately trying to generate for itself. I mean, even the premise of the movie is that the people who are actually using the hard power are the MAGA Trump style people. The whole premise of the movie is not our regime is going to do this to you. It's their regime is going to do this to you. So you need to come to us where we're going to protect you from all the violence out there. You need to subscribe to our services. Because if you don't subscribe to our services, then they're going to brutalize you. You have to think of the existing regime as like fundamentally feminine in structure and operation. Because you can see a very strong correlation between the feminine and the Fox style, the feminine archetypes and the Fox style ruling. Ruling through soft power versus ruling through hard power. Scheming, making combinations. That's the word that combinazioni is the word that Pareto used. The foxes rule through combinations, making deals. The lions are the ones who rule through overt force of power. And I think the the reason why I think it's important to understand these sorts of things is because we've kind of talked before about the different dynamics that exist in the sort of right-wing America right now. And it's kind of like you're forced to pick one of two camps, one camp being the buy into the hype of whoever the new exciting guy on the scene is because he's going to change everything and get all rallied behind him and he's going to go in there and drain the swamp and give him what for and all that. And then the flip side is none of it matters. The chosen people rule the world. There's nothing we can do to even remotely approach their dominance and their just sheer destructive capacity. Things are just going to get worse and worse. There's no reason to be hopeful. Anybody who ever presents anything that smacks of hopeful has to be shot down. No, don't get excited about anything. Don't be optimistic. Don't be hopeful. And I think both of these perspectives are bullshit.
What would you call the former? What would you call that type of person?
Probably like a
dupe.
It's like naive boomer idealism.
Versus like the Goonics, on the other hand.
Yeah, it'd probably be yeah. Naive boomer idealists and then like nihilistic Goonics, on the other hand.
No.
I happen to be a fan of third position stuff. So I prefer a third position on this, which is observing these things contextually with an understanding of the cycles of history and recognizing that life will go on and things will get better and they'll get worse simultaneously. And how you experience it is going to depend on the choices that you make as you navigate through this. So you're not putting your hope in a specific person. You're just recognizing what the different players on the board are doing and what that means. You're kind of like perpetually testing the wind, seeing where things are going, and then using that to inform how you move, to take advantage of different opportunities. Which is, I think it's kind of clear pilled. I'm not white pilled like, oh, Trump is going to save us. I'm also not black pilled like it doesn't matter what happens, the Jews are going to win. Neither one of those is productive or useful. So, toward that end, let me see what some of the comments here say. The feminine tyranny wants to avoid this outcome for exactly what Matt just said. It's counter to their incentive. Yeah, right. Like again, you're going to own nothing and you're going to like it. Like you're going to get subscribed into the Borg. You're going to get plugged. The ability to sustain this sort of digital world, upon which like all trade and all financial transactions and everything, they all depend upon the sustenance of this digital world. You can't sustain something like that with vast open conflict and hostility. You can have little pockets of it here and there, but there does not exist the political will or the quality of elite necessary to actually have something like that. That's something that's going to come. We're going to eventually have a regime that rules more like a lion regime. And in that case, you're going to get open warfare. But it's going to be a different caliber. It's going to be directed toward a different end. I'm not saying it's going to be our guys. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. So let's see. So there was this this preview, and then there was another. Let's start with this here. So share this screen. This is just an article that I found about this, just to use it as a jumping off point for conversation. So headline here is Alex Jones joins Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Andrew Tate in wild X Spaces conversation. The Tesla CEO plays the closest to reasonable role in a misinformation-filled conversation that former Trump official Mike Flynn and Representative Matt Gaetz also joined. The actual substance of the article is just the whoever wrote it just basically crying about these guys being offensive.
Have you ever noticed Matt Gaetz looks like a baby wearing a suit? He always like all his suits are like really, really small. So he's making a mistake. Like try to find like his torso up. Like he gets these like ultra slim fitted suits. Oh, that's not a good example.
Yeah.
Maybe someone made fun of him, and now he's got a like right there, not that one, right next to it. That's a good example. No. The one with the lady, presumably his wife.
Uh-huh.
Like you notice all of his suits are like really tight around the waist because he's trying to go for that tapered look rather than putting padding in the shoulders.
That
He
is
like
interesting. I never
he
picked
just
up on that.
narrows it around the waist, and he looks like a baby with a big head. All of his suits look like that. It looks horrible.
A baby with a big head. I didn't know you were such a sartorial connoisseur, Cooper.
I'm not really, but like he just looks goofy.
So this this dynamic here, I think, is very worth watching. Alex Jones, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Andrew Tate. This is
Isn't that Vivek guy? Isn't he like a literal pagan?
I think he's probably Hindu, but he kind of he's sort of LARPing as a Christian. He speaks about religion in sort of Christian overtones, kind of obviously pandering to a particular, the Republican base.
Right. So he's a pagan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, whatever. I don't vote, so whatever happens. I don't really care that much. But like, I'm not. I mean, having a literal pagan running the country would be pretty wild.
it would definitely be a big, like a seminal moment where you get to the point where that's actually happening. I'm waiting for a random username here to post this because he's said for a long time that he thinks that Vivek is the guy. Not that he wants him to be, just that he thinks that he is.
No.
I was
look at him.
Who was
look at
I
him.
listening
Look
to
at him.
just
He's not the
recently?
guy. He's not the guy.
Someone just recently said they were like complimentary to him, but they said that basically he's running a comms op. Like that's what his presidential campaign is essentially a comms operation. His job is to get out there and force certain things into the conversation and direct the conversation in certain ways, and basically advertise himself as a spokesman for sale, kind of demonstrating his qualifications, his capabilities, and who knows, maybe he could sneak his way into a VP ticket somewhere, or but just essentially, I suspect that he's been financed by a lot of people whose goal isn't to have him actually win or have him actually get some sort of seat of power or whatever, but he has an interest in it because he can make himself set for life if whether he wins anything or not, just based off of his performance. So he gets fame and fortune and all that sort of thing, and then from the perspective of his financial backers, they get the ability to shoehorn particular things into the conversation and forcibly direct the conversation in certain ways. What's really interesting about him is he's the first, I think he's really the first like really legitimate candidate who is in tune with the spirit that we've talked about that runs kind of from Gen X to Zoomer. This kind of, there's something that binds the Gen X and Zoomer generations, and it kind of runs across a segment of the millennials. But it's this sort of restless renegade, kind of like fuck the police sort of perspective that they kind of bring to bear. Just sort of an independent, restless energy. I think he's probably the first candidate who has really, truly embodied that. Trump appealed to it. Trump knew how to tap into it and how to connect with it, but he didn't fully embody it. Like the charm of Trump was that he could connect with that spirit while still being a complete boomer. So Trump is like the fun uncle or the fun grandpa who, you know, you can go out and hang out with, and he's going to make like off-color jokes, and he totally gets the kids, and he's, you know, he doesn't come across as totally out of touch and boomerish, but yet he's still very much a boomer.
He won't give you one of his beers, but if you were to take one, he's not going to stop you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. That type of guy. Random username says Ramaswamy is a billionaire in 2023. Yeah. So I think Vivek's role here is guiding the conversation. You could tell he's very much embodying the Trump demeanor on the stage in debates with people. He's very much using kind of capitalizing on that bull in a china shop energy, which seems he seems to me to be the representative of young money going against the candidates who are the representatives of old money. The Nikki Haley's, the Chris Christie's, the Ron DeSantis's, these are all people who are backed by old money, who are trying to squeeze every last little bit of juice they can out of the existing state of things, and trying to see if we can, for one more presidential term, can we hail back to the glory years, bring someone who's going to bring sensibility and civility to the White House, yada, 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 yada. They're appealing to the boomer ideology, the boomer, not ideology, but the boomer phronema.
That guy looks like he showers too much for me to take him seriously.
Vivek?
Yeah, he looks like he showers like twice a day.
Yeah, he has like a whole moisturizer routine.
Yeah, very Patrick Bateman.
Yeah. Did you see the other day he was on a Twitter? It might have even been this conversation here. He was on a Twitter Spaces conversation, and he forgot to mute himself while he was taking a leak. Someone said something about how like you can take the man out of India, but you can't take the India out of the man. Someone they called him out. They're like, "Hey Vivek, you're not muted." He's like, "Oh, sorry guys."
Matt,
what?
How often do you shower?
Probably every 6 weeks or so.
6 weeks?
Something like that. I'm just kidding. Probably like 4 or 5 times a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just don't have time to do it any more than that.
No, that's a lot. See, I shower like once a week where I actually like get everything all soapy and shit. And then maybe I rinse off a couple times throughout the week. But here's my reason. See, I can tell this guy right here, he's like living in the center of the castle. You can tell he's not up on the walls. He's not like looking out for the barbarians. He's hanging out with the wife, the women and the children. So that already makes him kind of sus. But additionally, he looks like he showers too much, and for that reason, I don't trust him because, you know, like I live in the Midwest, in rural Midwest, and there's like woods and shit everywhere, and you don't want like a skinwalker or something catching onto your scent, so you can't shower all the time. That's like, you know, or like the Michigan Dogman or or like the Wendigos or whatever they're called.
Mm-hmm.
Like the monsters out there. So you can't shower all the time. If you shower all the time, what you're telling me is that you live in the center of the castle and you've been coddled and you're not worried about monsters because daddy's got you taken care of. And I don't like you. So I don't like that guy. He looks like he showers too much. At least like, okay, Andrew Tate looks a little rough in that picture. I don't like Tate either. I think he's a scumbag. But I don't know. He looks like he could probably handle like a wolf or something.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Jones looking a little rough.
Yeah, but I mean, Alex Jones looks like he could hold his own in a brawl. Like if you imagine like Alex Jones at a like a dive bar or something, and like a brawl breaks out, and somebody comes and cracks a chair over his head, I can just see him, turning around and like blood streaming down his face, and he goes like jumps on someone and starts chewing on their neck, and like I could see that. He and Tate both, they don't have that kind of like soft moisturized skin.
Yeah. Fing Book says Tate should have slapped some cam girls during the interview just to show how badass he is.
Hey, you get our sense of humor. So anyway, so this group of guys here that are beginning to form. There's something
I don't like it.
There's something of a counter elite beginning to develop between. If you look at like the sheer social influence contained in Alex Jones' audience, Elon Musk's audience, Vivek's audience, Andrew Tate's audience, Tucker Carlson is another one who's been tangentially connected and involved with these guys. The sheer influence that all of them have, if all of these guys all went in together on a given project, that project would be a social force. One of the things that has characterized the last, 70, 80 years has been the lack of a legitimate counter elite in the U.S. We've been governed. This is kind of part of this, like, the naive boomer idealism with all of its different manifestations has been like the predominant ruling philosophy, the governing spirit of the country. And what we're seeing now is the effect of having so many consecutive generations of incompetent leadership. Major competency crisis. The conditions are ripe for the rise of a counter elite. And there are, the way that I see people, like when I start talking about this sort of thing, and I point to these guys, I say, like, these guys look to me like they have the makings of being an actual legitimate counter elite that changed the direction of the conversation, that actually begin taking control of power structures and redirecting institutional focus on a like a fundamental societal level. I'm not saying that because I say I'm like hopeful that these are. I'm not saying these are the saviors. This is what we've been waiting for, and all that we have to do is wait for them to go and do their thing, and they're going to rescue us all and reinstitute Christian monarchy, and we're all going to live happily ever after. That's preposterous. What I see them as is something legitimate and different. And we're long overdue for something different that is legitimate. They represent a rising spirit that, as the preview said, all empires fall. What I'm beginning to see mounting in the kind of the wake of the Trump effect is an actual legitimate counter elite that has the ability to control the narrative and has the institutional sand in their pants to be able to make power moves that they can back up. They can write checks and cash them. This hasn't existed for a very long time. And they're kind of at the tip of the tech phenomenon. As Silicon Valley has arisen and began forming all these different institutions, different bureaucracies, there's a lot of that energy has gone into the Democrat Party because of just the sheer nature of a progressive. But as a lagging indicator, as the right-wing conservative impulse always is, there's going to be an eventual reaction, an eventual response. And I think that this entity that is like the thing that governs the regime, the spirit of the regime, I think that it is at the point where it needs a shift. It needs a redirect. We've spent the last several decades building out this global infrastructure. Now we're on the cusp of being able to have their 15-minute cities. They want they want to get as many clients as possible into these 15-minute cities where they wake up each day and they hop on their little hamster wheel in their home office and pedal away, generate whatever little tokens they need, and they live here in the city and right out on the horizon of the city, or right outside the borders. You've got agriculture and all this stuff is all run by robots. It's all automated, all the harvesting and transportation and everything. This is the sort of vision that they're building out. So they need, in order for this sort of vision, in order to have the 15-minute city vision, where you cluster everybody into the coom pods, you have to have cities that are safe, free of crime, and clean, and like the thing that are going to lure people in, bring them in, and make them productive. Because fundamentally they have to be productive. Because that's the way the whole thing works. That's the way the machine harvests human energy. So in order to make that happen, there's going to have to be a fox to lion shift at some point. But in order to have that shift happen, it has to mean the die-off of the people in the old regime. The old regime is going away. The new regime is coming. That new regime is going to be governed and populated by different people who are temperamentally different, who operate according to different incentive structures, and who have a different vision of what the world looks like. And it just so happens that right at this same time, we're on the cusp of a major generational transition between the naive boomer idealism and this new spirit that we've been kind of trying to tease out. The Gen X Zoomer sort of characteristic spirit. I don't think it's a coincidence that these different forces are kind of coalescing here at the same time. And I think the danger of not properly appreciating this is, if you're prepared for war, for civil war, because you think the Civil War outcome is going to happen, then having the rise of some charismatic right-wing leader who's making reaching out to Christians and drawing Christians and speaking the language of Christianity to people, promising peace and prosperity and all that, is going to be very alluring. I think that this sort of movie, this sort of imagery, the imagery of the open warfare, is it's like a distraction technique. Like, look over here, see this thing here, and then we're sticking something in your back from the other side. Our friend Jason over at 2-Bit Podcast has talked about how he is anticipating a rise of sort of like neo-traditionalism in becoming sort of like an overt mainstream characteristic. And I was a little skeptical of it at first, but the more that he's described it, the more I'm beginning to buy into it. Essentially, you're kind of starting to see the DEI thing is becoming a real big hot button issue, and the trans kids is a people are starting. You're starting to see the institutions sort of try to distance themselves from the woke thing. They're trying to retain the woke thing and distance themselves from it at the same time. And what the case that Jason has been making that I buy is that it's going to be a very weird, creepy horror movie-esque sort of thing where like what's the example he's given? Like where people are like tutting at you for not saying your prayers in public, where there's like going to be sort of like a rise, a new rise in Christianity and Christian fervor, and people basically wanting to LARP as like 1950s conservatives. But you're going to get something like Dave Rubin and his husband are going to kidnap some children and pretend that these are their kids. And they're going to say, now listen here, fellow gays, the reason why we're falling down the totem pole of the victim hierarchy is because you guys are a bunch of degenerates. So stop it with all the gay piss orgies, become decent gays, get married, have children, become productive members of society, and become a Christian, go to church, take your kidnapped child to church. This kind of like it's sort of like a Jordan Peele movie, kind of, where you have this image on the surface of everyone LARPing the trad life.
It's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, very Twilight Zone, very Black Mirror. Everyone's LARPing the trad life, but under the surface, it's skeletons and demons. Geehaw Jimmy says, "Yo, what the fuck is wrong with piss orgies?" Listen here, man. We kink shame here. You gotta get used to it.
My second favorite meme after the alien one that I talked about last time is one of like, it's got a picture of Jar Jar Binks standing there like all like in a weird pose, and it says, "I'm gay and I piss and I shit everywhere." That's my second favorite meme.
Someday you'll have to tell us what your third favorite meme is.
We'll get there after I read you another poem.
Oh yes,
from Marx.
Oh yeah, nice. We need some more Marx on the show. 2-Bit Podcast says only traditional piss orgies allowed. Yes. So the one other thing I wanted to touch on here today, related to this sort of, and who knows how long. I know you got a heart out here shortly, so we'll get through this quickly.
It's okay.
Share screen.
I got about 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So we've got our good friend Aristophanes here. And this is Tucker Carlson on Megyn Kelly. And I've listened through this once. There's a 5-minute video here. I don't remember how far we have to get through to it to get the kind of all the pertinent stuff, but we'll just play as much as we need to. So the caption on the video from the tweet, he says, "Tucker is the worst liar ever," which is a good thing. And in my opinion, this interview essentially confirms he's on the VP shortlist and aware of it.
Got to ask you, and I want to talk politics too. This was very interesting.
That's loud.
Trump went on the Clay and Buck show. I know you've heard about this, and well, maybe you haven't because you don't really tune into the news. And listen to the following exchange, SOT 3.
So would Tucker Carlson be on your list of potential VPs?
I like Tucker a lot. I guess I would. I think I'd say I would because he's got great common sense.
Oh, I know you get asked this all the time, but I mean, if asked, would you serve?
Well, it's just so unimaginable. I mean, I haven't led a life that prepares a person for politics. As I said, I don't think I have any like horrible skeletons or anything. It's not that. It's just that that's not how my brain works. I've never done anything like that. I can't imagine spending time with politicians. I'm a total sucker for Trump. I think he's, personally, I get along with Trump really well. The closer I am physically to Trump, like if I'm with him in the room, I always love Trump. And I think it's impossible not to, and the experience. He's just charming, okay? And he's funny as hell, and he's brave in his way, I think. So I really appreciate that, and I agree fundamentally with his views. Maybe fewer wars, maybe have a border. Like, those are not crazy things, and I support them. And I'm appalled and terrified by the use of the DOJ to rig an election, which is what's happening now. So all those factors make me kind of psyched to vote for Trump. But serving in politics with anybody.
You have thoughts?
I like Tucker, generally. But they're like, but I'm appalled that the DOJ, like this politician speak that he's doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah,
That's why I don't listen to politics anymore. I can't stand when they do that.
right.
They all
right.
do that, and it's so phony.
And I'm Tucker. There is just no possible way Tucker doesn't self-consciously know that's exactly what he's doing.
Oh yeah,
Like he's throwing out red meat. Like this is he's the dude is way too well read in philosophy and political history and political science. And I mean, when he was on his show on Fox, there was countless times where it was very obvious that they were harvesting stories from our guys on Twitter. He's very, very intimately connected with right-wing dissident Twitter and all of the forces that got Trump elected, and he understands them better than anybody out there.
Buddy, I mean, it's a lot for me to think about because I just don't think I'm really suited for that. I mean, would anyone want to see a guy like me run for office? I mean, people are like, oh yeah, not really, actually. I'm kind of, not really.
I've thought about it a million times. If I had you
all.
on that debate stage, Tucker, I actually thought about this. If you were out on that debate stage last week as one of the candidates, it would be so fun because you really would be just saying what's real. There'd be no massaging of message. And everyone would respond so well to you. Like, it's just so rare. And when someone is as authentic as you are, the people know. I just don't think you're not going to end your life without having been probably president, maybe vice president. I just don't think you will.
It's interesting though. Like I've known a couple people. I've known everyone who's run for president pretty much in the last 30 years. But I've had a couple people that I really like and stayed at my house run for president just from another life, and then they get into it. And you always think, wow, this is the person who's just going to be completely honest and say what he really thinks, and not in a way to inflame people. I don't think you should do that, by the way. Don't inflame people on purpose. There's no virtue in that. But just tell the truth. And then you see them subverted. I mean, it's crazy. Even, and I would never name names because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but like, you see these people run for president, all of a sudden an issue will pop up and it's like, where did that come from? Well, because they're getting leaned on or blackmailed, which is real. Let me just say that without being more specific, that's real. I have seen it. You know, we found out this about you. Cool it on that. I've seen that happen. So if you suspect that it's kind of rigged by, you know, people with more power than the candidates, you're absolutely right. And so I don't know. I mean, that whole world is you know, repugnant to me.
So it's a no for now. You can't envision it, but like the door's not totally shut.
I mean, who knows what happens in the coming year? I think we're in for real volatility, and if there's some way that I could help, but you know,
there it is. Yeah, you know, there's some real volatility, and if there's some way that I could help, you know, the answer is not no. There it is. That's the tell there. Like that, I think that right there is what Aristophanes is picking up on.
I'm not bragging, and it's not just a function of money. No, I don't have a mortgage. I'll admit that. But, you know, I live in a 2,000 square foot house. I don't live in luxury at all, but I live very happily, like very, very happily, my wife and I. And boy, with our many, many dogs and our many, many children. So the idea of disrupting that is, I mean, I'd really need to feel like, gosh, you know, I have to do this or something, which the idea that I would have to do something, you know, it comes down to me to say, you know, my job is not to save people. I don't imagine that I'm like some superhero. I'm just a hack who somehow endured in this business longer than most people. I'm really grateful for what I have, but I don't think like America needs me. And I don't want to become an egomaniac or a solipsist. And that's what you become when you start thinking that way. So I'm not thinking that way at all.
Debt.
Megan was looking right at me there, Matt, when you paused it.
She's still looking at me.
What's up, Meg? I got a lot of problems. You want to fix me? What's up, baby? I'll hit her with my pickup lines. Yeah. What's up, bitch?
Megan with a Y. Megan. Megan.
Want to make it Megan with a D?
That got me. Oh, it's creeping me out having her sitting here staring at me. I gotta make that go away. All right, so quick here because you got to go shortly. just kind of for the fun of it, just sort of teasing out this idea, just wondering, could something sort of fun like this happen? I was thinking, and I was discussing this with Coop earlier, so jump in at any point here, Coop, if you just want to. You got cable too. So you've got the regime who is in, I think, a bit of a pickle. I think that I don't think Biden was the plan. I think Biden was the plan for a little while, and then it kind of just had to become the plan. But they didn't think he was going to be as bad as he actually is, but he genuinely has been just much worse even than anybody expected. And there's legitimate egg on the face for the Democrats, and within the different factions within the Democrat Party and their donors and the people who influence within the party, there's legitimate egg on their face having Biden being their representative. And people would be like, oh, they don't care. It's actually a humiliation ritual and it's supposed to be that way. Bullshit. Stop being so goddamn cynical. These people are not proud to be represented by this incompetent, bumbling moron. They're not proud of it. They're making the best of the situation. But the idea wasn't for him to go completely senile in office. I'm reminded of an interview not too long ago. I think it was when Trump was in office, I think. And Obama was being interviewed, and he said he said his ideal situation would be someone else is president, they have a little earpiece in, I sit there and talk to them and tell them what to say and tell them what to do. Meanwhile, I'm in my sweatpants in my man cave sitting on the couch playing video games or whatever. He said that's what would have been his ideal circumstance. That's basically what we got. For all intents and purposes, that's what we have right now. But they need a transition plan. They need someone else to step in and replace Biden, because they can't roll with Biden for another term. It just is not going to be. It's just not going to be feasible. They have to have a viable alternative. But the problem with the Democrat Party right now is that there's very few electable people. Very few compelling.
You're really marking yourself as an outsider right now, Matt, by referring to them as the Democrat Party. If you were, cunning like me, you'd be referring to them as the Democratic Party, because then they think you're a friend. It's in-group signaling. You got to understand this stuff. You got to think like them. You got to talk like them.
Nah, fuck them. The Democrat Party. The demon rats, Cooper. They're demon rats.
The demon rats. Dems.
The
Fucking
Dims.
Dems.
The Dims, D-I-M.
The dim rats.
So
Dim pool. The stupid idiot.
You're in
and
fine
his
form
stupid
today.
idiot. What do you mean?
You got your Tim Pool LARP going on with the hoodie or with the beanie.
Uh-oh.
You're trying
Unlike
to rip
Tim
him
Pool,
off.
I have
He's gonna
hair.
come for you. I saw a clip from one of our shows from a while back where you had the gigantic beard, and it was kind of weird to look at now. Now that I've gotten used to seeing you with a little fuzz. So I think being able to, but one of the things the system needs is it needs energy. It needs to be able to generate energy, and it needs to have a direction to channel that and direct that. And I just don't think that Biden makes that happen. I don't think Biden is an effective mouthpiece for the regime. They need a better mouthpiece. They've also got to deal with the fact that the people who are governing us, the people, the what do you call it, the marionette holders.
No, Jason's totally right. Yeah. Are you talking about the real racists? Yeah, that's who we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about the
right.
real racists.
The guys
I was thinking about something. Oh, go ahead.
The guys who hold the marionettes, they're much less ideological than the people who are being marionetted. They're looking at, what can I do to ensure the sustenance of my rule and to make myself more money and to provide for my future generations? And they're thinking of things on that level. They don't want massive instability. They want some instability because they can use that to cycle the revolutions forward, but they don't
So-
want mass instability.
Are you saying that if we don't want to be marionetted by the marionetters, we should be centrists and not be ideologically driven?
That's right. Yeah, we need to be
I
calm, rational centrists.
propose that we all are radically anti-centrist. I'm sure that would at some point average out somewhere close to the center, but in any case, this is my philosophy. If another person agrees with you about anything at all, you're not extreme enough. So I don't care what your worldview is, just go to the edge, go to the fringe and pick one, and then adopt that and make that your whole personality. You'll be more interesting.
Now you just sound like a libertarian.
Except that they're centrists. We're not doing that. No libertarianism.
They're too gay. Yeah, Zoomer wisdom. Well, Emmanuel's is Zoomer wisdom. that's your little nugget of Zoomer wisdom for the day. So
Yeah. If anyone agrees with you about anything, you're not extreme enough.
I see this as an opportunity for all these pieces coming together just really make me think that what makes the most sense for the people with the most invested is a Trump reelection. I just think it makes too much sense. It provides it papers over some of the instability. It's going to provide a big jolt of energy. It's going to provide an economic oomph from that. It's going to make people, like, honestly, after the last 4 years, Trump is now a familiar thing. You're going to have the people who are shrieking and everything about it and whatever. Like, but ultimately, those people don't matter as much as the people, like, they need you just slaving away, going to the office, coming home, generating economic productivity. And Trump was great for that. I think he's now the devil you know. So you take Trump. You want Trump because it's gonna pacify things. It's gonna try to sustain things longer so we can get a smoother transition into the coon pods.
And he put on the yarmulke and kissed the wall.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
he's not your enemy.
However, from Trump's perspective, he needs to reinforce his bona fides with a lot of what was originally his base. A lot of his image among the right-wing circles has gotten smudged. There's still an affection for him. I think there's still a lot of people who would very happily vote for him, but it's harder to get excited about him. It's harder to get excited. Well, look what happened last time. If I'm gonna reelect you and put you in office, are you just gonna hire all the same retards and bog yourself down and with all your enemies again?
There was the whole, COVID gene therapy thing that he
right, yeah, and there's also a lot of cynicism and apathy about the electoral process in general. So Trump's VP pick, I think, is going to be very important. And I think that Trump is going to need endorsements. He's going to really benefit from endorsements from a lot of very powerful people. And since the last 4 to 8 years, we're seeing a rise of very powerful people like this counter elite that we're talking about. If you had, hypothetically, Elon, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Andrew Tate, who else is it? If you had these guys, if they came out and openly opposed Trump, they would majorly harm him politically. If they came out and endorsed him, he would be the most popular candidate in history. And I'm not saying that this matters in terms of actual vote counting. I'm saying that this matters in terms of sentiment and spirit. So it's seeming more and more to me that it just makes way too much sense for Trump to take Tucker on as a VP, if anything, to protect him from prosecution. Because nobody wants to have Trump's enemies don't want President Tucker. That's a whole new... Trump was a pain in their ass. Tucker would be an even bigger pain in their ass. So I don't know. Like, it's seeming to me like a deal with the devil is going to have to be made between Trump and the power brokers. And part of that may include essentially a poison pill in Tucker. And we'll just leave you with this. Cooper's got a heart out here, so we'll leave you with this. Imagine a post-2024 world where the owner of Twitter is homies with the vice president, and how significant that would be on an institutional level to have
Next
Twitter
week.
and the Oval Office more or less in lockstep.
Next time on the Real King Pilled Show, we ask the question, is Red Caesar a person or a persona? Tune in next time. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, do all that. Give us money if you want to get strong and shit. I gotta go.
All right, deuces.